How is this going? Right. Hi there, my name is Laura, and welcome to the Rider Position Fix-It Show, where we talk and discuss about riding position topics and share ideas and exercises to help you and your riders. If you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, or generally like other horsey-related stuff, then stay tuned because I think the exercises we're going to share with you today might very well change your riding forever in a good way. I'd like to introduce my guest host today with me, Jay Duke. Hi, Jay. How you doing?
Good morning, Laura. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Jay is a former Equestrian Canada team member and Equestrian Canada senior course designer and host of the Jay Duke Show Monday evenings on the Horse Network. Thank you so much for being here with me. Where are you calling in from today?
Calling in from Red Deer, Alberta. So Red Deer is a small city in between Edmonton and Calgary, right in the middle. And got a few stables here that I teach some lessons at and work with some people. And that's my spot for the moment.
Is it snowing there now? Do you guys get summertime, or is it just snow?
It actually has been hot for the past week. So summer has been here for a total of a week so far. So that's a nice thing.
All right. And of course, I'm Laura Kelland-May, Equestrian Canada Senior Judge, Hunter, Jumper, Equitation and Hack, and Senior Steward, and Competition Coach, Specialist High Performance Trained. So if it's your first time here, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if it's not your first time here, I still really appreciate you being here. And thank you so much if you're watching live or watching the replay. We got lots of stuff to cover. And if you would like to comment or have some ideas on what you're looking at or what we're seeing, please comment. Love for you to comment, and we take in questions and all that sort of thing. So we had some people sending in photos for us to take a look at their position, and we're going to get right to that. How's that sound?
Oh, that's what I'm here for. Let's see it.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to share this. So here's our first person. This is Phoebe. All right, we got a comment. Thank you. Oh, Madeline says, thank you so much for all your videos. Thank you so much, Madeline. Appreciate it. That's a cute horsey too, by the way. Very cute. So this is Phoebe. And when you send your pictures in, if you do want to have your own position review done, please send an email with an image to thistleridge@hotmail.com. I'll put that in the comments. And try to get from the side. What do you think about this video, this image, Jay, for position review thing? It's kind of dark and not too good from the side, right?
Well, luckily with the light background of the footing there, you can see a pretty good silhouette. So for the most part, you can see the angles. A little tricky to see the hand and the leg, but that's better.
Yeah, so I just took it and lightened it up a bit. So this is Phoebe. She's going in a flat class, looks like. So you want to take it away from here, Jay?
Well, first impressions look good. Yes, it looks like an under saddle class. Horse's nice extension there through the shoulder. It looks like maybe they're even just warming up for the flat class, just entering the ring is my guess. But that looks good there as far as her position. Her eye is up. If we start, let's start at the top. So her eye is up. Her shoulder is square. Her back is flat but not tense. So I like that. Looks like
lots of good stuff going on here, isn't there?
You bet. Her eyes are up. Slightly in front of the rib cage, which is nice. Looks like we've got a contact from the elbow to the hand to the bit. Looks nice. There's a light contact there, which you always like to see that. In an under saddle class, you don't want the horse in too much of a tight frame, and so there she's got the horse's nose is out in front of her, and yet still a little bit of contact, so that's quite ideal. And then the leg looking down looks good as well. The knee is slightly off the saddle. We've got, so we go down, the front of the leg is at the back of the girth, which you can see there with that fuzzy girth, the hunter girth there. So that position looks quite good. Looks like the foot is properly into the stirrup on the ball of her foot. So everything with that picture, from an equitation point of view, to me, there's certainly nothing that's stepping out and glaring. I would say that looks like an educated flat position for a young rider.
Yeah, I agree with you. She looks really solid. She looks really competent. And, I think if you're watching, and if you are a judge watching a hat class, if this is a hat class, under saddle class, or a equitation class, your first impression, at least for me, when I looked at this photo, was that looks like she's got a plan and she's executing a plan, and that's something that you really can't teach people so much, and they have to realize that comes across when you're in the ring, that if you have a plan or not.
Yeah, you definitely want to look comfortable in your surroundings. Even if you haven't been there before, you want to look like you've been there before. And so you want to know, when you come in the ring, here's the plan to how we're going to show our horse first off to the judge. When you're out there competing, you want to be able to show your horse properly off to the judge. Where do you make that trot maybe extend a little bit more and push that trot a little bit more? And obviously with this class, it looks like there's very few horses in a very large ring. So
yeah, that does look like a big ring, doesn't it?
That doesn't look like an issue, but in an under saddle class, it is important to make sure the judge notices your strength. So for instance, if you have a very good trot and say an average canter, you want to show that trot off, but maybe at the canter hide a little bit type thing.
Now, how would you hide yourself in a ring? Look at this ring. How would you hide yourself in that ring?
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen in that case. But most saddle classes are going to have, considerably more horses in it than that in a smaller ring. So that's definitely not your norm. But how do you hide? You just kind of get with the other horses. If you really want the judge to notice you, you want to be all on your own and be all by yourself. So as far as hiding, like I said, it's not like you're literally hiding, but you're just not, maybe you're staying a little closer to the judge's booth so the judge doesn't see you quite as clearly, or different things like that. As best you can, show off your horse's strengths. And obviously in a class that we're looking at here, the judge is going to have a good view of every horse.
So everything. Yeah. So make sure you do a good job. Now, is there something that you would like to, if you had this student as a rider at your stable in one of your programs, Jay, what kind of things would you get this rider to work on, let's say?
Well, I would say with her upper body, she could just, get the shoulder a little bit more, again, without being tense, get the shoulder a little bit more square, maybe the belly button a little more forward. She looks like she's not super broad in the shoulder, and you do want, from an equitation point of view, to kind of accentuate that. So I would bring the shoulder up and back more so, and not the angle of the hip, because that looks very good. But just to get her a little broader across the shoulder, the chest, and to keep that hip in front of her. That'd be about it. Like I said, from a leg perspective, I wouldn't change anything. And as far as the hand goes for the undersaddle, I guess you could say the elbow is a tiny bit out, but I don't think that's.
It's pretty solid. She's pretty solid in there, isn't she?
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah. So really good. Thank you, Phoebe, yeah, this is Phoebe, by the way. I think this is Phoebe. I better check on that. Phoebe in a flat class. Yes, excellent. I thought, my only comment, I like this too, where she's, the horses seem to be going forward nicely. That's one thing that, looking for as well. Only thing that I would have to say is, but it's hard to see in the other horses, is that the horse could be turned out maybe a little nicer. That would be my only comment, is that, maybe if she's going in a horse show, She looks great. So the horse should be braided as well. I noticed this horse isn't braided either, but what's your comments on that?
Well, that's a tricky topic because actually, when it comes to braiding, there's a lot of different elements to it. Um, Personally, I'm okay with them not being braided unless it's a big class, and the reason is I look at it from an economic point of view. For a lot of people, to get a horse's mane and tail done, you're looking at near $100 a day to do that, which definitely adds up. And honestly, I have a lot of friends that are braiders, and they're great people. So I don't want to, be against their job and their industry, and that is difficult. But horse shows are very expensive as it is, and so when you're adding $100 a day for something like that, so actually, I don't think there really should be braiding except in the big classes.
In the big classes,
I think a Hunter Derby, obviously, or a Hunter Classic. To braid for the 2'6" ring, I think if you wish to do so, I think you should do so. I'm not against it, and obviously it looks great, but I don't think it should be required, and I don't think as far as I understand, the judges just let that go at that level, and if that helps.
Do you think it could be a tiebreaker?
Well, I don't think it should be at the lower levels, and it probably I think with some judges it probably is, and with some it is not, and then that's obviously you get into that personal opinion. But again, just looking at it from an economic point of view, I do feel that braiding should be optional. Is my
so view. Something interesting happens. Pardon me, is happening at the horse shows here in the Ottawa area that are being hosted at Wesley Clover Parks in Ottawa, is that no braiding allowed, and if you do braid it, you're being eliminated during this COVID as a COVID protocol, because they don't want any more people on the grounds to braid horses. So they're saying if you're braiding, we're saying no braiding for anybody, because it wouldn't be fair, because some people would braid, some people wouldn't, and we don't want braiders on the property because it's COVID. So we're just saying if you braid, you're going to be eliminated.
That is very interesting, and it's, like I said, it's a difficult topic because there's people that is their business. The braiders work very, very hard. They work. They work all night long. They start at 10 at night and work till 8 in the morning. Sometimes under not great conditions. So they're very hard workers, and they're really good people in the industry as far as that goes. So it's a tough one. I don't want to see them lose their jobs, but at the same time, I for a variety of reasons, I understand that, and I do for what the horse show is saying there from a safety point of view. Yep. But it's such a difficult topic with the COVID because, what is an essential business and what is not. And
well, I guess braiding isn't, maybe.
And braiding is apparently not an essential business. Yeah. So yeah, as far as that goes, back to that picture and stuff, I think that at the lower levels, it should not be a requirement. Similar to how it is in the jumpers. You'll see some jumpers are braided and some are not, and obviously that doesn't affect the result. It's just a choice.
Yeah.
And
I like where you said that braiders start at 10 p.m. and then go all night. And I was reading something I can't remember. It might have been in a magazine or something, that the horse. Oh, I know what it was. It was that Marketing for Equestrians. She said that somebody was in braiding their horse at midnight, 1 a.m. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really outrageous. I mean, the poor horses too, right?
Well, what they try to do, the top braiders, is they know the horses' schedules, and so then they don't braid them too early. So, for instance, if they don't have a class until later in the day, then those horses will be left to be braided maybe 6, 7, 8 in the morning type thing. But yeah, it's an interesting job, and a very difficult one. It's really hard on the fingers, and it's quite a physical job for them. So I think they're well worth their money. Because I do think they work very hard and they do a great job. But I could certainly see that going away.
Yes. So, Madeline has a question. You want to answer a question here, Jay? Any tips for slowing down at the trot? I'm always told I'm a little speedy. And it makes it hard keeping my spacing. So, Madeline, you're having trouble with your horse going too fast, sounds like. So, Jay, what's your tips for that?
Well, tip number one would be to pull on the reins and slow them down. Always,
break it down to the simplest thing. Don't let your horse race. And I'm wondering, Madeline, is it that Palomino horse that you're talking about in your photo? Palomino horse.
It is important in the under saddle classes, what you're talking about there with their spacing, to go generally the same pace as the group. Now you have to be careful because you may have the occasional horse that is definitely too fast or definitely too slow. So you do have to
it could be that it has a bigger stride too. It's not just that it's going too fast. So there's going fast and tension, or going fast with because your horse is a long stride. So it sounds like her trot is fast with tension.
So I mean the best way to slow a horse down is to create a little bit of shape in the corner. So if you're create a little inside bend. So if you're say going to the left on the left rein, you'd have a little bit of left leg, get the horse's nose slightly to the left side, and you could do that with a very mild left indirect rein and right opening rein to create that shape. And when you create that shape in your horse and get them out into the corner, then they will automatically slow down for you. Also, you can get into a little bit of a give and take with the horse. So for instance, if the horse is too fast, what you want to do is you want to take on the rein and get a result. You don't want to just pull on the rein and to stay the same pace. When you pull on the rein, you want to get a result. And then once you get that result, then you can soften your hand a little bit. If the horse speeds up, then pull on the rein again, get the horse to the proper pace, then soften your hand again. And then that way you're teaching your horse the proper pace to go to. And then that horse is working with you to go that correct pace and that proper pace. Just make sure you're getting a result. So if you're pulling on the rein, the horse needs to be slowing down. You should not be pulling and staying the same. That's just creating tension on the horse and a miscommunication.
Yeah, so I like when you say that they should be slowing down, and the rhythm is the fundamental building block that you should be building your entire training system on. It's the foundation for your riding and your training. So if when you say, I like where you say to get a little shape to the inside, and I do, and what I tell my clients is put their left nostril in front of their left shoulder blade, and that kind of gives them a mental picture of where their bend and flexion in their front part of the horse should be, because they can see that. But you shouldn't be doing this in the show ring, trying to train your horse to maintain the same rhythm. That's stuff that you do training at home, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. As much as you can in the show ring, you want to be showing your horse off. Now, obviously if it's a very green horse or green rider, there's that training element to it as well. But ideally, and that's interesting what you say there with the nostril and the shoulder. I haven't heard that one before. Remember sometime as a kid, somebody had said to me, you should just be able to glimpse the inside of their eye.
Yeah.
The edge of their eye.
I never got that. I always looked for that. That's a Pony Club thing. Turn the horse's head enough to see the corner of their inside eye. I think that's Pony Club test number C2. I never ever got that. But when someone told me left nostril in front of their left shoulder, that kind of made sense to me. So that's what I adopted.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I think we should carry on with these position reviews. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have, wrong button. So again, if you have your own pictures that you'd like for us to review, send them in to thistleridge@hotmail.com. We'd love to see you and try to make them a little bigger because this one, as you can see, is a little bit small. So I tried to make it a little bigger. There. Is that a little better? But when I do that, you see it's kind of blurry, but you can see it. Again, this is the same rider that we saw before, but over a fence.
Okay, so
looks like it's in a horse show.
Yeah, so she's at a show. It looks like she's doing maybe the 2'6" hunters. There's a little oxer there, so I think the oxer start at 2'6". So what we're seeing here is a little bit of a forward position at the fence, as far as that goes. I think.
So a little bit forward position. So could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, the body is quite closed over at the jump. Her chest, for instance, is very close to the horse's neck.
Yeah.
So that area there. So her eyes are up. So we'll start at the top again as last time. So her eyes are up, and so that's good. And she looks like she's sitting fairly much in the center of the horse, which is always key. So I like that as well. But then if we come down, her back is flat, but she's very closed over. Ideally, you'd like to see the shoulder quite a bit taller there. It really stands out at how low the elbow is. So you can see the elbow is very low and the hand is very high. So the most important angle for me on a rider is always elbow to hand to bit. That's always the most important angle. And we saw that with this rider on the flat. She had a very nice angle from elbow to hand to the horse's mouth. Here you can see, that's what happens there. So that angle, so the release itself is quite high, but okay, it's not a problem. What happens is because the body is very low and then the elbow is low, now that angle is lost. So that's definitely the biggest thing that stands out. Of course, with the body all being connected, as far as, if one part's a little out of line, then others are going to be as well. You can see that the seat is quite far out of the saddle.
Right.
She's standing up a little bit at the jump. And so the seat's quite far out, and then the back is quite round as a result of that. And if we go down, it looks like the knee is still in good position. That looks good. The lower leg definitely too far back, which is causing the upper body to tip forward. So, ideally you want the front of the leg at the back of the girth, and you can see quite a bit of space there between the leg and the girth. So when the leg slides back like that, typically the body is going to collapse forward, as you're seeing there. So tips wise,
so for me,
go ahead,
one
please.
of the tests, if the rider is in balance, is if you took that horse away from underneath that rider, would the rider land on the ground in balance, or would they tip forward or tip backward?
I would say she would fall on her chin.
So to me, that means that she's not in balance.
And again, when we're looking at pictures like this, it can be a little tricky, because pictures don't always tell the whole story. And so, sometimes they make you look a lot worse than you do, and sometimes make you look a lot better than you do.
Yeah, so exactly. So, but this rider, she's not interfering. She's staying with the horse. There's lots of good things going on. But if she were doing a 5-foot jump, maybe that would be good. But this is a 2'6" jump, so maybe her shoulders. I think her shoulders should be up here more, like this, with her seat over the middle of the saddle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely like to see a taller position.
A taller position.
Yeah, a taller position, her chest further away from the neck of the horse. And then the big thing is getting that elbow to hand to bit line. And so there's two ways to go about it to help that. One is to work on pushing that lower leg more forward for her at the fence. And then the other thing is to keep that elbow in more at the jump and then think about staying further away from the horse's neck. And you have to be careful when you do that, that the rider doesn't sit up and return too early either. It is important that they finish the jump with the release. So I do like the fact that at least she's up and she's giving here with the release. That's always a positive. And I prefer a rider that's giving too much than not giving enough. That's for sure.
Yeah. So she's not interfering. So that's awesome. And so the other thing that I was thinking is that I'd like to see her seat more of the middle of the saddle here, because her seat is almost over the pommel of the saddle. And again, as you say, Jay, maybe the next frame, if this were a movie, the next frame, she might be perfectly okay. The horse might have caught up to her. But it looks like she's going down to meet the horse rather than the horse coming up to meet her.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And that's something which you have to be careful with smaller jumps with. And, I think it's important, obviously, people don't jump too high or above their level. But one thing that small jumps do is they tend to get the riders to go down to the horse. And it's really a challenge to hold your body when you're jumping a 2'6" jump, because the horses just don't come up much because they don't need to, because the jump is so low. So it is.
So they should be staying still then, right?
Yes, but that's hard to do. I know as a rider, I would ride, 15 to 20 horses a day at the horse show. And by far my worst equitation was in the pre-green and baby green hunter ring. By far. When you're doing the 4-foot hunters and when you're doing the jumpers and stuff, it's a lot easier to sit up than it is to sit up at a 3-foot fence. It's easy to say to do it, but not so easy to do.
So if you had this rider in your program at your farm stable, what type of exercises would you get this rider to do to help improve her position? Which way I think we're in agreement. Looks like she's laying on the neck. She's got too much. Also, you would like to have her arm open up more. So what kind of exercises would you do with her?
I like gymnastics when it comes to working on position. That's easiest. And I like gymnastic where it's a trot-in gymnastic, so that you're taking away most of the elements of the ride, and the rider can really focus on their body. So it could be, a simple gymnastic with, say, a trot in, one stride to a vertical, one stride to an oxer. And I'd set those distances at 18 feet between the trot jump to the vertical and 21 feet from the vertical to the oxer. So the distances are just very comfortable and easy. The horse doesn't have to really stretch or anything like that. And then the rider can really focus on their position. I think the two things would be, one is, through the gymnastics, to just keep her body still. So what I do with a rider like this is I have them come to the gymnastic in the 2-point position. So they're already prepared to jump. So I like them to come in the 2-point at the trot. And then you just say, look, just don't move. Just keep your hand very still. Keep your hand
Don't move. Don't move. Stay still.
Very
right?
firm to the neck with the hand. That's really key. Get, a nice, at least a medium release. So a nice release, have the hand very firm, and just stay very still. So I like them to come into the gymnastic in the 2 points, and then the rider has to make no adjustments. And then they really get that feeling of body control.
Yeah, staying still is a big thing. A lot of people work on that, to stay still. Yeah, and I like the gymnastic, because once you're in the gymnastic jumps will just help set the horse up properly, so there's no adjustment required. And those distances, what did you say, 18 to 21? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
18 to 21?
Comfortable, with a horse like this is a smaller horse.
Yeah.
It's not a big mover, so you don't want to make the gymnastic where the horse has to stretch out.
So those are approximate rule of thumb type distances. You may have to adjust the distance. So particularly if you're on a pony or if you're on a bigger horse, just to make it comfortable for the horse, and you can do it without having to concern yourself about the distances, because you want to focus on your own position, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, you want to make it all about the rider and their position, and the more that you can create awareness of the body, and the more the rider can feel what their body is doing, then the more they're able to correct it. If the rider, say, doesn't know that they're leaning forward at the jump, then obviously it's going to be very difficult for them to correct that sort of thing. So the first thing you're doing is just kind of creating awareness of, okay, what is the rider's body doing? And so the rider can feel that. And then once they start to get that awareness, then you can start to improve upon it. Another thing, I just point out when you're working on this sort of thing, don't get too concerned with how it feels. Sometimes when you make a riding adjustment with your position, it might feel much better or it might feel much worse. Honestly, that's irrelevant, because what feels right is what you're accustomed to. And what you're accustomed to may or may not be correct. So that's why it's very important to have a good coach on the ground helping you with your position and helping you with those details of the angles of your body. Don't worry about how it feels as a rider. And if you're a trainer, don't ask your riders how it feels, because it doesn't really matter. What matters is them doing it correctly and creating good habits. And then once those habits become, then that will feel right to them. So that is really key when working on position.
Yeah, and sometimes too, if you are correcting something, if you've had that bad habit for a long time, to get out of it, it will feel uncomfortable, kind of as if you were writing with your right hand all the time. You want to write with your left hand. It's going to feel very awkward. Exactly so. And sometimes also you have to overcorrect so that you overcorrect it so that when you go back to normal, it's the correct way. So it will feel awkward. I like that you pointed that out. Now let's get into specific here, if you don't mind me asking, Jay. You said you really wanted to fix this thing here. This.
Yeah, the elbow angle, so you can see from the elbow to the hand to the bit.
So let's get into specific about that. What specifically would you do to help this rider so that doesn't happen? Now, if you were judging a class, would you mark this down? You see this all the time in the hunter shows for sure. Riders doing this with it's almost a stylized thing now, where their elbows come down below their hands on their neck. How would you correct that?
Well, you correct it by, again, getting the rider to sit up, and then that's going to change that angle. So by getting her shoulders taller, chest taller, and getting her much more upright. So essentially getting the shoulder almost over the hip. It's going to be a little bit closed, obviously, but you can get that shoulder much more over the hip. As you can see there, the hip is almost parallel with the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's pretty parallel across there. So ideally, you're going to get the hips lower, the shoulder above the hip, and then that's going to correct that elbow angle.
Shoulder above the hip. Shoulder above the hip. So there'd be a shoulder, let's say, and there'd be a hip. With the hand.
Glad you're doing the drawing, because I can't draw at all. So I'm glad.
Oh, that looks better.
But there you go. Now you're talking.
That's pretty cool, actually. We've got all your problems solved.
Well, and you're right. That is a very common thing that you see in the hunter ring, and it's not something ideal. Would you knock that? Would definitely in an equitation class you would knock that. In a hunter class, it could be something which is a minor note, just as far as the overall picture, but it's not going to be as big a deal in the hunter ring.
Yeah. So another way that I try to do that is tell riders to think of pushing their chest away with your hands rather than folding over your elbows, to push your upper body away from your hands so that you can keep the weight down into your seat. That's another thing I've heard. And I think also another rule of thumb is that think that you want to get a helmet in between, at least your riding helmet between your chest and the horse's neck, so that you aren't folding over top and leaning on the horse's neck. Those are just kind of like little visual things that people often.
Yes. Yeah, no question. I agree with that 100%.
Okay, so let's go on to the next rider here, shall we? Let me just get that queued up. Okay, what am I doing here? Close. All right. Next rider is, this is, oh my goodness, I forget what her name is already. Darby. Thank you very much, Darby, for sending in these pictures. This is a lovely photo from the side. We can see the rider. Am I showing it? Yes, good. From the side, you can see her position from the side. It's a little bit dark, so I just kind of tried to lighten it up so we could see it. And if you have a question, comment about what we're discussing, please feel free to put it in the comments here. We'd love to hear what your comments and questions are, and like some interaction here. All right, Jay. So this is Darby. Looks like she's schooling at home.
Okay, so before we get to her position, I do want to point out one thing. I noticed there's a jump cup there on that standard without a rail in it. That's a safety hazard. Yeah, right there. You got to be careful with that sort of thing, because if your horse something unusual was to happen, and that even looks like a metal cup.
Yes. Okay, so just a second. I'm going to go back to this one. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's perfect.
So just from a safety perspective, please take those off. It's very, very rare that anything could happen, but things can happen. And so please remove the cups if you're not using them. But let's get to her position, because there's a lot to like here. There's no question about it. Well, again, we'll start at the top. Her eye is perfect. Love that. She does have, her shoulder is definitely, compared to say the last rider, is up a lot taller. Her back looks in pretty good position, and you got to watch that you're not looking for too flat of a back at the jump, because I know that's really emphasized in the equitation ring, but horses don't jump jumps in a flat bascule. They jump them with a round bascule. The horse obviously his shape is more like
so
this.
Bascule, just to back up the bus there a bit, Jay, and just bascule to make sure everybody understands what the bascule is.
Well, that's the shape of the horse's body, essentially from the front of the horse to the back of the horse. Oh. Yeah, the total shape. So there's always ideally you want roundness through that top line. The more roundness through the top line, generally, the better the jump. So I like where her back is. Now, if going back to the elbow, to the hand, to the bit here, we see it's a little bit broken. I'd like to definitely see with this rider, I'd like to see the elbow more forward. I'd like to see the elbow more in, and I'd like to see the hand more towards the horse's bit.
So like here?
Going here, there you go. Because then now that angle is going to change. So what she's executing here is a crest release, which is a correct release. I mean, we've talked before on the shows about the different types of releases, and a crest release is one of the correct 3 ways to do it. For me, I'd like to see the hand lower, so it's more of an automatic release that follows more towards the bit. That's going to change that elbow angle, and then the position is going to be really good. So just like you're illustrating there, I like that. And then if we go down, her hips look good. I don't know, maybe she's out of the saddle, 1 centimeter too much, but
She's very she's built to ride. I mean, beautiful her conformation for riding. She's got lovely long leg. Yeah, like you say, maybe she's out of the saddle a little bit, but
but I mean, maybe it's hard to say. The knee looks good. The lower leg looks great. The position, the angle there on the ankle is good. On the toe, where the leg is. So I like everything about this, other than, like I said, I'd lower that hand a little more, bring the elbow in a little more, bring the elbow a little more forward, and then I would say it's a lovely picture.
So what do you think of her stirrup length? Do you think her stirrups are a good length?
I think for that height of jump, I mean, you could say maybe they're a touch long, but I don't think so.
No.
Again, it is difficult to tell with these sort of things, but I wouldn't say it's definitely too long. They're certainly not too short.
Right.
If anything, it might be 1 hole long for jumping. They're set at her flat length.
Yeah.
So she could be at flat length with her stirrups there, and so you could go 1 hole shorter, and I think that would be okay.
And to me, it looks lovely and balanced. She's not interfering with the horse. She looks really kind and everything, but she looks quite tense to me. Like she needs to take a deep breath and just kind of relax and feel what the horse is doing. It looks like she is a bit mechanical, maybe.
I think she knew she was going to be on your show, and that you were taking a position, so she's posing. I'm guessing that's probably what it is. It could be. Again, it's so hard to tell with a snapshot.
Yeah.
I definitely see what you're saying. No question about that. But that may not.
Would you let this rider ride one of your horses to exercise it?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, based on that picture, yes, but that doesn't mean she knows. I don't know what her flat work is like. It might be
exactly. So, I mean, she looks like a competent, lovely rider. She's kind and soft and thinking about the horse. At least that's what I see. Looks like she, to me, needs to take a deep breath and relax and kind of sink down a little bit more. I mean, and we're talking, little things. For this rider at this level, I think she's great.
Well, and little things, I mean, if you want to talk about little things, I'd definitely put her hair up. That would be better. If she didn't have her hair up, it should be in a braid, just to clean it up a little bit. She's wearing Parlanti boots, but they're a little dirty. I mean, you could clean that part of it all up.
Gloves?
And she's wearing Cavalier Toscano breeches, so she's well dressed.
How do you know that? What type of boots and breeches she has on?
Well, by the logo, yeah, you can tell. And then could be wearing gloves. I don't know. Myself as a rider, I think gloves are important in the equitation. Myself as a rider, I prefer not wearing gloves, so I'm not going to criticize somebody for doing something I didn't do much. So
awesome. And if she had gloves on, we might not have seen her hands so nicely either.
Well, honestly, in equitation classes, riders should wear bright white or bright pink gloves so the judges could see their hands.
How lovely their hands are.
Actually, and as a coach, I mean, black gloves obviously look by far the best, but you're not able to see the angles much. If we're looking at her hands, her angle is perfect as far as that. You want to have that thumbs up but slightly towards one another, and so it is nice to see actually without the gloves her angle on her hand is ideal.
Nice photo though, isn't it? Okay, so this is Darby and she's sending another one. This is the same person, I think a year ago, I think she said.
Well, she's improved a lot. That's for sure. I mean, yeah.
Same thing here, right? This is the one I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. Well, at least those ones are underneath the rail. So, that's a little, that's, I agree, but a little bit safe. Yes, if you're not using the cups, please take them off the standards for safety's sake. Yeah, hard to even tell that is the same rider. No question, she's there. The balance is much, much different. You can see how closed over she is with her body. Her hand is actually not even near the neck. It's above the neck and not. What's happening with a jump like this is the rider's body is closing and the hand is coming up. Is what's happening. So that's a significant difference there. The leg, again, you can see some similarities there, but it's definitely, the angle is not as good as in the former picture. So she's obviously worked hard over the past year and improved a lot with her position for those two pictures. So well done.
Yeah, excellent. So I'll close this, go back over here, go back to us. So I see some people watching here. If you have any questions, please send us some questions. I would like to also share, since we're talking about positions, and I want to leave everybody with a idea of some lovely equitation riders. And so I got the Maclay a Maclay Medal Final 2019. And I'd like to share that. What do you think about that?
I always love to watch those sort of things.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop this. And then I'm going to start it again. Share screen. Chrome tab. There it is. I don't know if I'm going to get dinged with a copyright notice. There. Haley Royce, round 1. So this is the first jump. So I think it's important that people see where they can go with their riding and what's available for them when they do ride. So often we don't really look for things that we can do with our riding. What do you think about this ride, Jay?
It's very much the equitation style. It's not my favorite style. I mean, I like that her seat looks very educated and very good. I like that she's riding with her leg and she's riding, nice and forward there to the jump. It's definitely short on the release. And the hand is very high at the jump there. Like the hand's actually even above the jump. There you've got a twist to the body.
She does that a lot, actually.
Yeah, a little, there again.
So she swings her seat out to the outside.
Yeah, she's asking for the lead there. Nice aggressive ride. I like that very much so. She definitely rides to the jump. She has quite an accurate eye, even though she missed early on with the one distance to that top jump. She's quite accurate, but yeah, a little stiff for me. I'd like to see more softness, definitely more softness through the elbow, more working with the horse in the air of the jump. That's gonna, that sort of style is really difficult for the horse to come up through their hind end and through their body with that style.
Okay, something is happening there. Okay, I was going to try and show another one. Oh, great. So let's go back here. Okay, so that's we've covered up. Oh, wait a minute. We got to do exercises for this rider for our last rider. We didn't do exercises to help her improve her position. Are you there?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so this rider here. Did we talk about what we could do with this rider?
Well, no, we did not. So I think that and you can see a little bit with both. Is I'd like to see, again, talking about the hand, I'd like to see that hand. For riders, don't be afraid to use the horse's neck to help you balance a little bit. Ideally, in the end game, you don't want to balance on the horse's neck, but when you're learning, it's okay to do that with your hand. And once you have your hand really established in the correct position, then you can work on not balancing, but it is important. So what I'd like to see here with her is I'd tell her, to press her knuckles into the neckline a lot firmer. You can definitely see that. You can see a little bit here, not so, but it's harder to tell. On the other picture, you can definitely tell that. And just kind of create that, use that neck muscle, because the neck is essentially just two big muscles. So you can push all you want, especially if you're a tiny lady like this one here. You're not going to affect them by pushing into their neck very hard. So push into the neck, use that position to help you to hold that body. See, you can see you're just lifting a little bit at the jump and then crouching. So again, I would practice, we talked about the gymnastic earlier. So if we look at a different way, let's say you'd have a line of jumps that were, say, 4 strides apart, and you could canter them. And again, you'd set the 4 strides at a comfortable distance. This looks like quite a small horse, and these are smaller jumps. So with, say, this horse, for example, set those distances at about 57 feet at 4 strides, so that the distance is very comfortable for the horse. And then again, get the rider into their 2-point or the half seat, whichever you prefer. They're both correct. And then work on, at the jump, pressing into the neck firmly with the knuckles and staying there from takeoff through landing. For sure, this rider is not going to be supporting the release into the landing of the jump. The hand's going to be coming up and back. So really work on staying across that. And then
what you're saying, to keep your hands pressed into the neck when you land.
Very, very important to do that. It's one of the biggest mistakes that is made in riding.
So that people bring their upper body back too soon, and then because they're not independent, that they lift their hands off the neck. Is that what you're saying?
It starts off with most riders closing too early, and then as they close early, then the horse is now coming up with their arc, and then that pushes the rider back into the landing as the horse is coming down. That's one of the hardest things about jumping, is to stay tall on the land and the takeoff, and then finish into the landing with the body.
So it's kind of a domino effect then. So if you do this leaning too far forward and get too far ahead of the horse, then that's going to make
the rider's body is coming down, and then the horse's body is coming up.
Yeah.
Then as they're coming into the landing, the horse is coming down and the rider's coming back the other way.
Yeah. So they're a little bit behind the horse on the landing.
What I would suggest, say, as an exercise is that with the 4 strides. And then what you could do is make the in just a very small jump, and then the out, you could work on becoming an oxer and get that oxer a little wider, and making the rider stay with the hand, keeping the body still and tall, but making sure the hand stays closed into the landing. And often with riders, I will put a marker 1 stride or sometimes even 2 strides after the jump and say, hold your release till you get to this marker. I'd say 90% of learning riders return too early with their hand, at least 90%. And so I'll put a marker at 1 or 2 strides after the jump and say, hold your release until you get to this marker. So then
very important.
Finish the jump. And it's very key to finish the jump with a soft hand.
Right. Yeah. So I've seen that a lot as well, is that riders think they're finished their jump before they even land on the ground and lift their hands up. So the horse, when they land, often try to get away from the contact. So they become inverted on the landing rather than finishing their jump. So, would you use a neck strap or the martingale strap of a martingale to help keep your hands still on the neck?
Absolutely. When you're first starting out, definitely. You putting a strap on the neck and making sure your hand stays there. You never want to pull on your horse's mouth in the air of the jump. That's really key. So definitely a strap on the neck is helpful. But then watch you don't get relying on it. I think it's a good skill to learn to hold the mane, actually. And people, there's a real stigma about that, about, oh, I can't hold the mane, that means I'm not a good rider. Hap Hansen from California, who's won over 100 Grand Prix, he regularly held the mane. And so it's really not a bad thing, and it's a good thing to practice holding the mane when you get in trouble, because sometimes a horse will leave when you're not expecting them to leave the ground. Maybe your eye is a little off or something like that, and the best thing you can do is like, oh, I'm in trouble, just grab the mane. So yeah, I think the strap is a good idea, but I would use it only at the very beginning, because I really like the riders to just get that instinct of, oh, okay, I got to stay with this horse, I'm going to grab the mane. And that's, to me, a very under-taught skill. I know I was taught that as a little kid. Just look, if you're in trouble, grab mane. And I don't see it. And it's almost like this negative stigma about grabbing the mane. And to me, it's a much more negative stigma to floss your horse's teeth in the air of the jump with a bit than it is to grab some mane. So that I would go that route even more so than the strap on the neck, just to create that instinct in the rider, like, okay, I got to stay here. And then, of course, as your position gets better, you don't need to grab the mane, but still going to have that occasional jump when it's nice to hang on.
I think sometimes putting something around, like a neck strap or the strap of the martingale, to hold on to, just to show the riders how much they are lifting their hands off the neck, because sometimes they say, okay, yeah, I can do that, but then they have to let it go because they realize that they are bringing their hands up.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that idea. And anything you can do to create softness with the hand in the air of the jump is a positive for the rider, and which makes it very much a positive for the horse.
Okay, Jay, would you, we're going to wrap things up here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I really appreciate the people sending their pictures in. It's hard to get, critiqued and torn apart every, little piece of the body.
Well, come on. Do you think we tore them apart? I think we had some really good discussions here.
To do that is really fantastic.
It's pretty brave, isn't it?
It's very brave, and we saw some, to me, a lot of positives here, and definitely working with that American forward system of position. You can see that with the riders, and that's good to see. I think position and the fundamentals of your body and position is really key. That's something that I worked on, every 40 years as a rider, and every day in the lessons, we work on that right from at the walk to the time you're done. It's always about working on the fundamentals of your position. The better that position is, the better that you're going to have the consistent results. So take care of the basics with your position, and it'll be a huge benefit to your riding.
So Cassidy, when did you send in your photos? I'll have to go. That you'll be next week. How's that sound? So I'll have to find those, Cassidy. Thank you for sending them in. And Shirley, thank you, Shirley, very much for that. So, final words, Jay?
Well, Laura, thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here, and now I'm going to go and take some of the stuff I just said and take it out to the barn and work on some of the students with these very same things. So it's always very motivating, actually, to be on these shows, and I really enjoy it. You
always say something else, though, too.
Oh, as far as yes,
well, I'm fishing.
Yes, you are. Sorry. On my show, on the J Dig show, most important thing to me, of course, is the horses. So ride safely and always respect the horse. Yes, there we go. Now go use this stuff. Go hug your horse. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks now. Take care.